You are listening to the Burned In Teacher podcast, and this is episode 15 and the final episode of season 1. And let me tell you, it is so filled with action and inspiration. We've got to get into it right now. So cue the intro. Welcome to the Burned In Teacher podcast. I'm Amber Harper, and the educators on this podcast are brave enough to share their stories of burnout with the world. On BIT, we get real, we get honest, and we take action. Action against the burnout with stories from burned out teachers, advice from experts, and actionable steps you can take today to beat the burnout and become a happier, more fulfilled human being. Let's get started. Hey, Burned In Teachers. Welcome to the Burned In Teacher podcast. I am your host, Amber Harper, and the Burned In Teacher podcast is, of course, one part burnout and all other parts action, inspiration, and support for teachers going through burnout. We are going to dive right into making 2019 the best year ever. But first of all, I have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by the Burned In Teacher Small Group Program, starting the week of January 7th, 2019. If you're feeling isolated, frustrated, anxious, and basically burned out of your career as an educator, this program is for you. The 8-week program gives you 2 one-on-one calls, one in week 1, and one in week 8 to assess you and your progress and where it is that you have wanted to go throughout the program. It also gives you a weekly group call with the other small group program members where we will talk about each other's goals, help support each other through our own experiences and advice, of course, keep each other accountable as the weeks go by, and go through the Burned In Teacher program together. We will also have our own private and exclusive Burned In Teacher Tribe Facebook group where only members of past and present and into the future members of the Burned In Teacher Small Group Program will come together, share resources, inspiration, and their journey as they graduate from the program and learn about themselves. They then can become mentors for new teachers to the Burned In Teacher Small Group Program. This is also the place that you can come to for the resources that I shared during our Zoom calls, including the recording of that call and the slideshow that I will share with you during the call. You'll also have access to the Burned In Teacher Journal that I'm creating just for this program to track your goals, your progress, your struggles, and your vision for 2019 and all that is to come to you as you go through this program and realize incredible things about yourself. If you listened to episode 14, where I interviewed Janelle and played snippets of our first 3 weeks together during this program, you know the power behind having an accountability partner. And imagine having an entire group of accountability partners just cheering you on and helping you through your struggles and helping you to reach your goals along the way. So if you're interested in hearing more or reading more about the Burned In Teacher Small Group Program, just go over to www.burnedinteacher.com/BIT coaching. I will put the actual address there in the show notes. And as you read through it, if you have any questions, you can email me at burnedinteacher@gmail.com anytime, and I will help to answer any questions that you have about the program. It is $149, and my friends, if you did not know what to ask for Christmas, now you know. Imagine opening up a gift of possibilities for yourself in terms of happiness, contentment, and action steps that you can take to become a happier and more fulfilled human being, which you know is what Burned In Teacher is all about. So now that I have talked a little bit about that, let's get into today's episode. If burned out was your word of the year last year, we're going to take care of that problem together today. Let's get started. Okay, Burned In Teachers, the next 25 minutes are seriously going to be so action-packed that you may have to re-listen to this episode or take notes because I'm going to give you so many action steps in order for you to turn that word of the year burnout from 2018 into whatever it is that matches your aspirations for 2019. And I want you to open your mind to the possibility that these action steps don't just have to be applied to your life as an educator. These steps can be taken into your personal life as well. Today, I'm going to take you through 3 Burned In Teacher action steps. The first is going to be to create a word of the year. I've done this before with my Facebook group. I've done it personally before I even started Burned In Teacher. And I am telling you, these little tasks that we are going to complete are going to set you on a trajectory of insane success this year. So that's the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go through a couple of little activities to create your word of the year. The second thing we're going to do is go through some really awesome steps that I've learned from my friend Kim Strobel at Strobel Education and kimstrobel.com. And we're going to talk about what steps you can take to create a vision board that is going to help you to take that word of the year and make it visual. And last but certainly not least, the third Burned In Teacher action step we're going to take today is we're going to talk about how you can create a plan of action that makes those goals that you write about and brain dump about to create your word of the year and your vision board. We're going to talk about how to create a plan of action for 2019 so that these words and these images don't just stay in your office or in your brain. You actually live them out. Now, I do have to add in a quick disclaimer. I did not create and invent these action steps. These are tools and strategies from mentors that I have found in my life. And so although I've put my own spin on them, they originated from other people in my life who I look to and try to emulate, which is also a great lesson for you to find those heroes. When you find those heroes, those people that inspire you in your life, you do anything you can and even copy their actions because living like a hero is going to turn you into one. I promise you. So we're going to get started with number 1, create a word of the year. So to create a word of the year, there are a couple of things that you need. Number 1, you need a fresh, clean journal. Now, this does not have to be something fancy that you spend $30 on, but it can be. I simply used my Google Innovator Journal that was given to me in the summer of 2017. And this coming year in 2019, I'm going to create a new one. This is where all of my action, inspiration, my goals, all of the brain dumping that I'm going to do as I create my 2019 plan, although I've done it in my head, it's going to go into that journal. So I suggest having a journal each year because I'm telling you what, I have now 2 full years of my dreams and aspirations and struggles documented for me to go back to look at and see how much I've grown when things are tough. So again, I warned you, you may have to come back and listen to this episode or take some copious notes because the first thing you need to do is get yourself a clean journal. It could be something as simple as a composition notebook for $1 at your local grocery store. It does not have to be fancy. The next thing that you'll need, of course, is a pencil or pen. Get one that you enjoy writing with, something that you feel is just comfortable to sit down and do a bunch of writing because you are going to do a lot of writing in this first step. And then for the very end, when you do some reflection on everything that you've written down, you are going to need some colored pencils or markers so that in that journal, you can write that word loud and proud with as many colors and images as you would like as you doodle around it and make it yours. And I should mention, in the blog post that follows this episode, I am definitely going to share with you my image of my word of the year. Okay, now you know that we are working on our word of the year and the tools that you need to do it. What you're going to do is these next few steps, and I'm going to try to be as clear as possible, but again, they are going to be listed in the blog post that follows this episode this week. The first thing that you're going to do is what's called a blue sky brain dump. Blue sky means that as you look up, the possibilities are endless. You can see forever. So as you do this brain dump, you are writing down your biggest dreams and your biggest goals, both as an educator and as a parent or a spouse or a friend. What is it that you want for yourself in 2019 and beyond? You don't have to stick within 2019 with this one. This can be your goals and aspirations and dreams for the next 1, 3, 5 to 10 years. You are seriously going for it in this brain dump, and it may end up being a couple of pages long. Step 2 is you're going to turn to a clean page and you're going to draw a line down the middle. And if you're a teacher, this is a T-chart, okay? What you're going to do is on the left side, you're going to write down all of the things that went well in 2018. So all of the good things that happened to you, and this could be very detailed, very vague. It's totally up to you. On the right side of this T chart, you're going to write down all of the things that did not go well in 2018. So all of the things that gave you anxiety, stress, really let you down, the things that you do not want to relive in 2018. Again, you may have to go to a new page for this one. It is your journey. It is your life. So you do whatever you need to do to get this done. Step 3 is you're going to make a new T chart. On the left side, you're going to say yes, or rather write the word yes. And on the right side of the T chart, you're going to write the word no. On that left side under yes, you are going to write down some things that you're going to say yes to. Now, we've talked a little bit sometimes about the need to say no, because when you say yes to some things, you're saying no to others. So what is it in your life that either literally or metaphorically you are going to say yes to in 2019? And this is the tough one, because you're going to have to make some decisions. On the right, what is it that you are going to say no to in 2019? Now, keep in mind, this is not just about education. This is also in your personal life. What is it that you have consistently said yes to that is adding stress to the rest of your life? And what do you need to begin to say no to? Also, keeping in mind, when you say yes to some things, you say no to others. So this is going to be a big mind shift for some of you. Okay, so if you can still write, because you've done a lot of jotting and writing at this point, step 4 is where you're going to make a list of professional goals and then a separate list of personal goals, okay? So you may need a few pages for your professional goals, and then you start a new list of personal goals on a new page. Now, you can also be listening to this episode as you're actually going through these steps. Now, setting your goals here, you may forget some. You may have to add some to this list as the year goes on, which is totally cool with me. You can do whatever you want with this. What I'm asking you to do is not law. It is just what I have found to be extremely helpful in me setting myself up for success in the coming year. And finally, step 5, which is my favorite part of this exercise and this Burned In Teacher action step, is you get to create your word of the year for 2019. Now, this is going to take a little bit of thought and reflection. I want you to go back to all the way where you did your blue sky brain dump, and then you wrote down what went well, what didn't go well, what you're going to say yes and no to, and now your personal and professional goals for 2019. Look for words that repeat or words that stick out to you. You can write down and really do a brain dump of possible words that could be your word of the year, and then choose one. And although I typically encourage you to confide in others, like your significant other or your friends, I want this to be your decision. So if you're a person who has to sleep on it, then go ahead and close your journal here and sleep on it, and then come back to it tomorrow and decide which word you think is going to be the best choice for you. When you do make that decision, this is where you get to get fun and creative with color and use either one full page or 2 full pages when you open up your book to write this word as big as possible and decorate it with your favorite colors and doodles. I'll be sharing an image of mine in the corresponding blog post. And by the way, if you're a member of the Burned In Teacher Facebook group, you've already seen me go through these action steps, but it's not a terrible idea to go through it again since we're starting a brand new calendar year. And after you have your word of the year for 2019, you can then move on to Burned In Teacher action step number 2, create a vision board. Okay, here we are in step 2, create a vision board. Now, these steps come from www.kimstrobel.com/vision board. And this is actually her free downloadable ebook called Vision Boards and the Law of Attraction: 5 Steps to Creating a Life You Love. I'm starting on page 22, where she starts with the materials and steps you need and tips on how to create the best vision board for you. But I am telling you, the pages that precede this section of her ebook are filled with action and inspiration. And I'll put it in the show notes for you. I am telling you, it is worth the download and the read. It is an excellent way to help you to burn in 2019. Kim was a guest on the podcast early on whenever it first started back in September. She is in episode 3, and she is a happiness coach, and she talks to us a lot about facing our fears and finding happiness in our life. So if you're curious about who Kim Strobel is and what it is that she does, go ahead and give episode number 3 a listen, or go to kimstrobel.com for more information. Okay, so in terms of how to create the best vision board for your 2019 year of life, you need a few things, some materials, okay? So Kim suggests getting a poster board. She suggests a couple of places you can get them. If you want to do a poster board, I would go ahead and go to Walmart, just somewhere that you can get a cheap, colorful poster board for all of these awesome images that you're going to put in front of your face every day. Go ahead and grab some glue, some markers, stickers that inspire you, some motivational quotes, your favorite magazines and or pictures that you really cherish and that you want to repeat happening in 2019. Now, Kim suggests an hour of uninterrupted time. When I do this coming week, I plan on curling up with a hot cup of coffee and allowing myself as much time as I need to get it done the way that I want it to be done. And you may not need an hour. So this is all dependent on you and your personality and the time that you have allotted to make this vision board what it is that you want to see happen in your life in 2019. She also suggests possibly grabbing some friends. Can you imagine having some teacher friends surround you while they're creating their vision boards as well? How fun does that sound? In fact, if you live in or around Fort Wayne, Indiana, I'm actually hosting a Burned In Teacher Live mini event at Ted's Market on Coldwater Road on Thursday, December 20th in the Wine Bar from 6:30 p.m. to 9:30. We're actually going to go through all of these action steps together. So if you go to burnedinteacher.com/live event, you're going to see all of the details, all of the materials, and be so excited to join us, me and however many other teachers decide to take time for themselves in planning their best 2019 ever. So I'm so glad Kim mentioned this in her ebook, because what a perfect time to get together with a bunch of other ladies and gentlemen who want to set themselves up for success in 2019. So again, Ted's Market, Fort Wayne, Indiana, December 20th from 6:30 to 9:30. Please RSVP by emailing me at burnedinteacher@gmail.com. But hey, if you're listening to this at 6 o'clock on Thursday, December 20th, just get in your car and get over to Ted's. I will have a few extra materials to share with you for those of you that are going to hop on in there to help you to set yourself up for success in 2019. Okay, so now back to this vision board that you are possibly creating on your own in your own time. Step 2 is to collect data. Now, don't lose me on this one. This is the good kind of data. You're going to choose photos and quotes and sayings and images of places you want to go and people you admire and visual reminders, anything that you want to see and bring into your life in 2019. Also, keep in mind that this can be an ongoing collection, okay? So if you see something after you create this vision board that you want to add, go for it. You are the creator and the boss of your future. Say that out loud. I am the boss and the creator of my future. Doesn't that just empower you? And this is where it all starts, okay? So step 3 then, after you have collected all of your photos and quotes and all of the things that you want to see come into your life, now you can sort those items, okay? You can kind of arrange or categorize them. Kim likes to get certain sorts of images and items together, but you can do whatever you want. I know when I create my vision board, I plan on probably just putting them wherever they fit. Step 4 is where you actually decorate those boards, okay? So after you get everything arranged into the different places that you want them and you glue them down or tape them down, whatever form of organization you choose, Now you get to get creative, okay? You can paint or draw some whimsical designs. You can write inspirational words or sentiments. You can do whatever you want to finish up this board, okay? And number 5, the 5th step is deciding where this board is going to live. This board really needs to be hung somewhere where you're going to see it daily, multiple times daily. So you should hang it in a place where you will pass it several times. I plan on taking a picture of mine or a screenshot of mine and making it my phone's background, sending it to myself in an email or airdropping it to myself and making it my computer screensaver. I know Kim has one vision board in her bedroom and one in her office, and she passes both of them many, many times throughout the day. In the morning, on her way to the restroom, she passes her first vision board. And then in her home office, she sometimes works in there for 8 to 10 hours, by the way. She has another vision board to remind her of why she is doing what she's doing. She is constantly being reminded of her goals and aspirations for the year ahead. Now, I love this part of Kim Strobel's guide to creating a vision board because she knows where my mind was. If you are not a cut and paste kind of person, then go new school, she calls it, and get a digital vision board. I know me being a Google lover, and you know that about me too. I definitely plan on using either Google Slides or Google Drawings and changing the setup to be a little bit larger than they typically are. And I'm so excited to create a digital vision board. I will definitely be sharing this with you when it is finished. I will definitely be posting it in the Burned In Teacher Facebook group, and I really encourage you to share yours as well. This is a great way to connect with others and share your dreams so we can continue to support yourself in that group. If you're not a member of the Burned In Teacher Facebook group, go ahead and go to facebook.com/groups/burnedinteacher. One last thing about digital vision boards. Apparently, there are some apps you can download as well, according to Kim in her ebook. There is one called VisuApp. That's VISUAPP. There's one called Happy Tapper, and there are several more that she lists in her ebook. So check it out at kimstrobel.com/vision board if you want to download your own copy. So now that you have your word of the year and you have a vision board that will help to be an inspiration to you on a daily basis, now it's time to plan for success in 2019. Are you ready? Let's go. Burned In Teachers, you are now in the 3rd step of the Burned In Teacher action steps to have your best 2019 ever. And I have been so excited to talk to you about this 3rd step called Plan Your Best Year Ever. Now, this was actually inspired by a webinar that I attended called Your Year on the Wall by a wonderful woman named Steph Crowder from the Courage and Clarity podcast. Now, I consider her to be a business mentor. I've actually taken part in one of her courses a couple of months back. I've been listening to her podcast for years, and I really respect her belief that we can't just have strategy. We can't just make plans. We have to hear other people's stories that they have gone through in order to get where they are in business. And that's actually where the inspiration for the Burned In Teacher podcast came. Steph's setup for the Courage and Clarity podcast is that she has entrepreneurs come on and talk about their journey as an entrepreneur, and then they give their tips and tricks that help other business builders to learn and to use in their own journey. Does that sound familiar? Because that's exactly what I'm doing on the Burned In Teacher podcast. This podcast is a perfect example of that nobody does anything excellent alone. And a lot of my inspiration for things that I do on this podcast come from my experiences that I have and my struggles that I have in my own life. So take that as an example of what I told you at the beginning of this podcast episode, that you have to find heroes and even sometimes copy what it is that they're doing. And I don't mean use their exact material and claim it as yours. What I mean is you have to act like a hero if you want to be a hero. And that's exactly what I'm doing on Burned In Teacher. There are no podcasts out there like it. And it's simply because I heard a podcast that inspired me and thought, teachers need this. They need to hear each other's stories, and they need to have actionable steps that they can take to become burned in. So cue the Burned In Teacher podcast. So Steph Crowder is such a huge inspiration to me as an entrepreneur. But anytime I listen to any podcast that has to do with business, my brain automatically switches to how could I use this excellent advice and these amazing steps to build something for teachers who are struggling. And that's what I'm doing. So back to planning your year on the wall or planning your best 2019 ever. Here are the steps to do that. The materials you'll need for this last Burned In Teacher action step are as follows. You'll need your word of the year, all of your goals and desires, your vision board, a paper planner, or a digital planner like Google Calendar. But if you do a paper one, which I'm going to do because I plan on getting a little messy in it and I don't want it to be permanent on my digital calendar, you can go ahead and just get a cheap one from Walmart. And finally, if you really want to get serious about this planning your year on your wall, like I'm going to do, you'll need a large wall calendar that you can take apart into different months. So you can get on Amazon, which is what I did, and I can put the link to the one I ordered in the show notes. If you are planning on putting the large calendar months on your wall, you'll need a set of different colors of sticky notes. Okay, I have purple, pink, yellow, and orange, and each of those are going to stand for something different. One of them will stand for workshops. One of them will stand for time off and vacation. You can make them stand for whatever you want. Now, coincidentally, you've already done the first couple of steps to get yourself prepared and in the mindset of success. So I'm going to tell you those, but we've already done them. Step one is actually to dream big for 2019. Okay, so we've already done that. We've already written down our blue sky brain dump. We've already created a vision board. We've already talked about writing down what went well and what didn't go well. And now it's time for the next couple of steps, because this is really what's going to help you to reach those goals and do those things and see those people who are on your vision board. Okay. Now, one more thing that I think we need to talk about is the need to not only have goals for how we feel and action steps to get there, but we also need to talk about personally, what are your financial and what are your family goals? Okay, we sometimes put those things off or ignore them or shove them off because those are more difficult things to talk about. But I can guarantee you that if you sit down and think about your financial and family goals, especially with your significant other and your family members, you're going to get a lot of insight into what you need to do in 2019 to reach them. So think about these couple of questions before we actually start planning this amazing 2019 year, okay? What are your financial goals? What have they been in the past? What do you wish that they would be? A lot of teachers that I've talked to really struggle with the amount of income that they bring in as a teacher. So think about your spouse or your partner and what it is that they bring in, and really have a deep conversation with them about what your financial goals are for 2019. And also maybe you need to be thinking about your retirement goals. I know sometimes that goes by the wayside as well. So if you're listening to this part of the episode and you want to go back to the beginning when you did your blue sky brain dump and all of those different steps to find your word of the year, then go ahead and do that. Push pause, go back and do some adjusting. Now, I know that these topics about family and financial goals can sometimes be a little bit touchy, but they are conversations that we have to have because we're talking about your financial future and your family future. Maybe you and your partner have talked about having another baby. Is that something that you want to do in 2019? If so, then what are the steps you need to take to get there financially or space-wise? Do you have enough room if you would happen to have a baby in 2019? And of course, in reference to your family's goals as well, is how are things going within your family? Now, I know that we all have different family makeups and situations, and so I won't go too deep into all of that, but how are things going? How is your relationship with your kids? And or your spouse or your partner or your extended family? Are those things that you need to go back and add to your step one of the Burned In Teacher action steps? I know, again, these can be really touchy, but if we continue to ignore them, they're not going to go away. So I just encourage you to think hard and talk deep about these things within your family structure. Now, the next couple steps really do depend on you. So I'm going to kind of go quickly through them, and then you can do with them what you want. So what I plan on doing, and you'll see these in future videos because they're going to be behind me, is I know what my next calendar year is going to look like. And of course, I'm going to do what Steph calls guided flexibility. And because I know when my family's vacations will be and workshops I have coming up and different conferences that I'm going to be working at and schools I'm going to be working with, I'm going to use a $5 planner that I bought at our local Kroger supermarket. And again, you can get fancy with that planner that I told you needed for this step. But I am going to get kind of messy in that thing, and I'm going to write all of these things down. The next step is then, what are the tasks that I need to complete to make sure that those things are done well and that I can help myself to be successful? That way, I'm not scrambling around to try to get things done at the last minute. Now, I can tell you that as a teacher, this was excellent advice to hear from Steph Crowder on her podcast episode and in her webinar, because this is what we really need to improve as teachers. We are constantly trying to catch up and keep our heads above water. So if we plan ahead and know what we need to do to set ourselves up for success, those types of situations are way less likely to happen. So once I get everything onto my messy calendar, I'm going to call it, I decide which color represents different topics and areas of my life. So for example, I have the Burned In Teacher small group program starting on January 7th. So let's say that's purple. Now the days and weeks leading up to January 7th, I'm going to use pink to represent preparing the content and getting everything ready for the success of those teachers. Now, I also have yellow sticky notes. Those will probably stand for vacation and time off with my family. That's also very important for us to plan ahead our vacations with our families and loved ones. So what happens with those sticky notes is those go on the large wall calendar that will be also in front of my face every day to help to keep me focused. See, now we've gone from just talking about our goals and writing them down to creating a visual with that vision board. And now we're putting those small actionable tasks onto a calendar in front of our face. So my plan is to have those sticky notes on my wall calendars. And then I will use my Google Calendar to put in the details of what I need to do to prepare that content for conferences and workshops and the small group programs. And Burned In Teachers, that's it. I know I say that's it pretty lightly because this is a lot of hard work. You may not be able to do all of this in one setting. The only tips and tricks I have for you is to listen to this podcast episode again, take some notes, and do the things you need to do to set yourself up for success in 2019. Speaking of doing what's best for you to get yourself ready for the best 2019, as I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, this is the last episode for season 1 of the Burned In Teacher podcast. I am so excited for the planning that is going to happen over the next 3 weeks before holiday break here in the States starts at the end of December. I have so much planned for you and for the podcast and for burnedinteacher.com. And I know that what I need now is time to plan, time to execute, time to talk to some teachers and get their input on some things. And of course, time to relax with my family. And that is what I wish for you throughout the rest of 2018. Good luck with your planning for 2019 and keep us posted in the Burned In Teacher Facebook group. I will see you on January 7th for episode 1 of season 2 of the Burned In Teacher podcast. That's it for this week's episode of the Burned In Teacher podcast. Until next week, take a deep breath. You are your own hero, and you just took another step to becoming a Burned In Teacher. Burn on. If you want to be updated on the latest Burned In Teacher podcast episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the Burned In Teacher podcast on Google Play or iTunes. Also, please consider leaving a review and leave a rating so that other teachers who are feeling the burnout can find this podcast to help them feel supported as they continue their journey out of burnout. Thanks so much.